So late last year, and then into the early part of this year, we held a patient survey. We wanted to hear from you. We wanted to hear from our patients in Australia and New Zealand to understand what you needed, what you're going through, and to understand a little bit more about your journey, etc. So these are some of the key findings and the early findings. We're still sort of digging through all of the information. But I just wanted to touch on a little bit and show you what we've found. So when we hit you up again later this year for the next patient survey, you can see what we actually do with the information and what we share, and how we can use that information to support you down the track as well. So who responded? We had 72 respondents, which is I think it's a really good number considering it is a rare disease across both Australia and New Zealand. Majority of them were women because we like to have a chat and we like to share information. But a lot of the people that were that did respond were actually from quite a diverse backgrounds. Asian heritage, Indian heritage. They'd relocated from, say, the UK, New Zealand to Australia, or had moved from Australia to New Zealand. So we actually had a really good diverse lot of respondents. Ages, really did span right across, young adults all the way through to our mature age patients as well. So it was really good to see that we had a really good mix, and the mix itself was it painted quite a realistic picture to the Australian and New Zealand populations as well, which was great. So one of the questions we talked about was actually the road to diagnosis. So how long did it take for you to, so what were the triggers, and then how long did it take for you to be diagnosed? And this sort of shocked me a little bit, not so much the top triggers being, obviously bruising, routine blood tests, abnormal bleeding, those sorts of things, but it was the time to diagnosis that personally, shocked me a little bit, because while, some people were, a good third of people were diagnosed quite quickly within a week. Because it is a process of elimination, if you're being seen by a non-ITP specialist, your diagnostic pathway is actually going to be a little bit longer. So, another almost 40% of patients, this took more than a month to be diagnosed. So understanding that this is something that we can probably help with educating other non-ITP clinicians, which is what we do at Blood every year. We host breakfast meetings to educate them on the latest developments, etc. But I know that at the next Blood conference, guys, we'll be talking about diagnosis. No problem. Now, I touched a little bit on, in my story, some of the emotional impact. So we talk about the physical impact, the bruising, the bleeding, and those sorts of things. But the emotional impact that patients actually go through, compared to before they were diagnosed, is actually quite shocking. And there is little to no ITP-specific mental health programs out there, which is something that is on my bucket list. So those of you with money in the audience, mainly the front row, and Nevada's up the back, happy to call me. Call me, I'll take your money, and we'll spend it all on this sort of stuff. Because after diagnosis, patients have gone from, 54% of them have gone from, my life's pretty bloody good, all the way down to poor, very poor, at the time of diagnosis, and then today, further down the track, still 15% of them are sitting at still poor or very poor, which is quite a big cohort. And these are just adults. We're not talking paediatrics at all here. This is purely the adult patient group. And as I said, there is little to no support out there other than, the one-to-one calls and support that we provide, and some of the mental health component and education that we provide through our magazine and so on and so forth. We've all seen a lot of this information today, the top burdens of ITP, but you look at the anxiety, the fatigue, the sleep issues. Sleep issues, some of that is tied to prednisolone and dexamethasone, and then depression. Depression is huge, 44% of respondents. Yet we don't necessarily have have that support network available just yet, specific, even just to rare disease, not just to ITP, but for rare disease specifically, which is something I know that Rare Voices is currently working towards. But having that support network for our patients as well, I think, is definitely a pathway that we want to be looking at in the coming years. Then we talk about the invisible burden, because, I don't look sick, but like every other ITP patient in the room today, they're dealing with these are the top three, and these are reported and have been published over and over and over again. Fatigue, number one, first highlighted in iWish 1.0 in 2019. The anxiety around the platelet count, the risk of bleeding as well. Having to go through those elements every single day when you're living with ITP, the slightest bruise can send you completely sideways. I know personally, I experienced a bruise a couple of months ago and I spiraled for half an hour. Like, that's not healthy. And that was all off one bruise, but that's 10 years in, and somebody with my knowledge and my education and my support network, and I'm still going through that, so I can only imagine what some of you are going through without that knowledge and support base as well. Quite a few nods in the audience. We also talked about and asked questions about what treatments have you been on? Who here, if you feel comfortable in doing so, has been on more than one treatment? Raise your hand. More than two? More than three? More than five? There's quite a lot of us here that have experienced multiple treatments. So because it is a process of elimination, we still don't know what treatment is going to work for what patient. There is a lot of research happening in this area, but it's in its infancy. And it's something that we're really pushing towards to understand better, and working with amazing clinicians and researchers to be able to facilitate and help provide some insights into that is always really important. The other thing that we have to remember here, so splenectomy is 23%. We have to remember that in Australia, the landscape was that you actually had to have your spleen removed to access thrombopoietin receptor agonists up until early 2023. So this number is going to be quite considerably high. In New Zealand, you are still required to get a splenectomy before accessing thrombopoietin receptor agonists, or the one TPO currently available. But we do expect this number to drop and drop significantly, because I know that from a lot of our medical advisors in the room, they haven't done splenectomies in an extremely long time, because there are so many other treatments and so many other therapies coming through the pipeline. But we have to know that our ageing population and our ITP community have had to jump through quite a lot of hurdles up until early 2023 to access that information, access those treatments. Shared decision making. This one really shocked me a little bit, and this is probably why we talk about shared decision making so much as an organisation, as healthcare professionals. Less than 40% were actively engaged, of the respondents were actively engaged when it came to making decisions. Nearly nearly a quarter had no input, none whatsoever. And this is part of the education process that we're delivering with healthcare professionals, not the Danny, Sarah, Phil of the world, but the haematologists that aren't ITP experts, that don't live and breathe ITP. And this is why you all got a copy of the Shared Decision Making Toolkit in your bags today, is to be able to read it, digest it, and take it with you to your next haematology appointment. If you don't feel that you're part of the conversation, that tool and that resource will help facilitate that, or go and get a second opinion. Simple as that. As Danny presented last year saying shared decision making is like having a dance with your clinician. If they're doing the foxtrot and you're trying to tango, it's not going to be pretty. It's really not going to be pretty. But shared decision making and having that open dialogue and that conversation is always fundamental to your ITP care. Like the badges that were given out this morning as well. ITP treatment is a shared decision, and it should always be a shared decision. And if you're not happy, feel free to get in touch with us and we can help you navigate that as well. What do patients need to feel more confident? So these are some of the things that we're helping with at the moment, but there's still a long way to go. The risks and benefits of treatments need to be explained. And yes, we have the treatment information sheets, and they're available. The adult ones are currently available up on the step next to the Messages of Hope. But they are all also available on our website to download for free. In both, I think during the quiz, there's 20 of them now, and we're currently building the next round. Understanding what the day-to-day expectations are of ITP and what's my day and what's my life now going to look like. This is something that we don't have a really good explainer for because everybody's ITP is vastly different. My day might be very different to somebody else's, and having that explainer tool and being able to give them an understanding as to what to expect is something that something that we're currently working on. Easy to read information. I think we deliver on that now, but there's always opportunity to improve what we do. So if you've ever got any feedback, any recommendations or suggestions, feel free to email, get in contact and let us know, because we don't know what we don't know. And if you've got an idea, if you've got a suggestion, we will always rope you in and let you volunteer. Doctor guidance. Now, this is something, as I touched on earlier, we do a lot of this outside of these types of events and these types of conferences, but it's really good to see that we had some GPs here today. We've got some haematology nurses here today as well. So I think that's really important. It's fundamental, because they all play a role in your care and your day-to-day. I know I had a complex chronic health management plan done with my GP. So all of my specialists and my GP would have a regular catch-up going, okay, so this is what's happening. Everybody would get all of the results to any single test that I ever got done. So the left hand was talking to the right hand. This is a tool that no one or not a lot of people know about here in Australia, which I think is really important to promote and to talk about. But we also do a lot of work with haematologists, GPs. We're going to be talking to paediatricians as well, haematology nurses. Next week, we're doing some education sessions. So the information and the education around ITP and what is ITP, these are the treatments, these are the shared decision-making toolkits, these are the resources, these are the treatment guidelines, to educate these guys on what is happening in the ITP space, because they can't be expected to know everything either. We're privy to a lot of that information. So we want to be able to provide healthcare professionals with information and support so you don't have to do the work either. So it's always really important to work with all stakeholders and not just one or two or three. Patient stories. Patients love patient stories because, as I said earlier, some people really resonate with some of the stories, some of the experiences. I'm not sure if there's anyone else in the room that's given their daughter a $50 note and told them to get chocolate and not come back with change. But that's probably not what's resonated. It is potentially, the use of steroids or the side effects of steroids. And sharing those stories are so amazingly important. So if you know somebody who is willing and able to share their story, and we only ever want you to share your story when you are ready, because it can be quite a mental load as well when sharing your story. We are always here to listen, to work with you, to be able to share that story, and not just in our magazine or online. We utilise patient stories at education meetings, at conferences, with our healthcare professionals as well during different meetings as well. So if somebody's willing to get up and present and talk about their story one-on-one, like Caitlin did last year with Danny, it's always really helpful to help share those experiences. Clinical trials. We spoke about clinical trials during the survey, and 71% of patients and those responded had never been offered a clinical trial. Never. Now, Phil touched on it earlier that some clinical trials, they take on patients really early during their diagnostic process, or heavily refractory and, in between. Unfortunately, in New Zealand, there are no clinical trials available, something that we're doing a little bit of advocacy around. But here in Australia, there is currently, I think, 12 active clinical trials with some more in the pipeline, which is massive, absolutely massive, considering the number of patients that we have here in Australia. 31% of our respondents said they would like to be considered for a clinical trial, which I think is also really important to know and to understand, that people are actively willing to roll up a sleeve and participate in a clinical trial, and not just for them, but for future patients as well. As I said earlier in my story, I did participate in a clinical trial, and I never regret that, and I'm potentially looking at another one at the moment as well. Even though my treatment is currently working for me, I think it's important that I give something a go. I know that I've got a potential backup if the treatment doesn't work for me, and if I'm helping somebody else down the track, I think that's really important as well. Now, Sarah touched on this earlier, the additional burden on women when it comes to ITP. So when it comes to menstruation, it emerged that this was one of the most significant factors of women with ITP out of our respondents. Now, yes, I know a lot of the vast majority of the respondents were female, but nearly 40% reported a heavy menstrual cycle. Nearly 40% of women didn't know what was classified as normal. And this is part of the education process that we're currently embarking on and working on to help educate women on what is classified as normal, when to seek help, what is normal, what's not normal, etc. So you will find a lot of articles, stories, videos, those sorts of things on our website as well at the moment. But we are currently working on a bit of a tool, hopefully in the next couple of months, to not just support people living with ITP, but women in general, with regards to what's classified as a heavy menstrual cycle and what's not. The other thing is that because these particular patients felt uncomfortable talking to their clinician about their cycle. So these guys deal in blood, but apparently, because it's not coming out of the arm, it does make some, mainly, I'm being very broad here, mainly male haematologists squirm. And If that's the case, if you do need to seek a female opinion with those sorts of things, feel free to reach out. We're happy to connect you with some amazing female haematologists, because we get it. We understand what the menstrual cycle can do, and we have that knowledge base. But unfortunately, a lot of our male counterparts go, "Oh no, you're right, it's all good." Which we've seen historically across women's health for an extremely long time. So what's the big picture? ITP impacts people in so many ways, in so many areas, in so many aspects of their life. It's not just the physicality, it's the energy levels, it's their work life, so their careers, their identities change, their confidence. It can impact relationships, especially when you're on steroids like that. Jesus. I'm not sure how my husband still kept me around during that period. Just daily function. It impacts every single aspect of your life, and we understand that. We do understand and we get that. But this information, with regards to the big picture stuff, is mainly to let you guys know in the room especially, and those of, because we are recording these, people that do see this presentation, is that we hear you, we understand, we support you, and we're going to stand with you to help deliver and improve your quality of life, and help you navigate this ITP journey. This is more than just data. It's more than just numbers. This is going to give us, the results from this survey overall is going to help shape what we do and what we deliver for the next 12 to 24 months. Whether it be in research programs, whether it be in sponsorships, connections, meetings, tools. This is the roadmap. What you guys tell us is what's happening in your life is going to help shape what we deliver for you in the future. So really, really, really would love to see a lot more people participate in the next patient survey, which will be rolling out the end of this year. Feel free to jump online or jump on socials to follow us as well, to make sure that you are included and you're getting that information, that it's up and live. But we want to be able to provide you guys with all the tools and all the support that you need, but we can only do it one at a time, and we have to do it together. Thank you.